Hey everyone, and welcome to The Explainer. Look, let's just dive right into this because it feels like every few months, right? Somebody in the tech world comes out and claims they've built the new model that's going to change absolutely everything. And I mean, let's be honest with ourselves. Most of the time, that is just really clever marketing. We all know that deep, pulling your hair out frustration of using current AI models for actual big tasks. You paste in a long document, you start asking a few questions, and then halfway through, the AI completely forgets the constraints you gave it in the very first prompt. It's kind of like working with an assistant who has severe short-term memory loss. It's infuriating. But this time, actually, I'm genuinely not so sure it's just hype. We are looking at a truly paradigm-shifting release from Z.ai called GLM-5.2. Today, we're going to break down exactly why this release is, well, basically tearing down the boundaries of what we thought was possible and moving us away from those frustrating amnesic chatbot gimmicks and straight into the era of serious heavy lifting AI.
And it all starts with this number right here. 1 million. A million tokens. What's really interesting about this is that it represents GLM 5.2's massive headline feature, a 1 million token context window. To put that into perspective, that's roughly 5 times bigger than its own predecessor. But let's clarify what 1 million tokens actually feels like in the real world, because numbers that big kind of lose their meaning. Imagine stacking about 50 standard-length novels on a desk right in front of you, okay? Now imagine asking an assistant to instantly find a highly obscure recurring theme that's buried across all 50 of those books simultaneously. That is the sheer scale we are dealing with here. This isn't just a minor spec bump. It's a total cure for that AI short-term memory loss we just talked about. We're talking about an AI that can hold an entire mid-sized codebase, a massive textbook, or literally months of complex project history in its working memory, all at the exact same time without ever losing the thread.
So here is our roadmap for making sense of this massive leap today. First up, the core update. Second, the full codebase workflow. Third, the deep document workflow. Fourth, a much-needed reality check. And finally, the big picture shift. Let's jump right in.
Part 1, the core update. Before we look at this massive jump in capability, it really helps to understand who is actually building this thing. So GLM 5.2 comes from Z.ai, which is the international brand for Z.ai. They're a highly respected Beijing-based lab that spun right out of the prestigious Tsinghua University. And what is incredibly fascinating here is just the sheer velocity of their development. Like, this is already the third major release in their GLM-5 lineup in just a few short months. It's wild. Just look at the stark leap from the previous generation. GLM 5.1 topped out at a very respectable 200,000 tokens. That's a lot. But GLM 5.2 completely shatters that ceiling with 1 million tokens. Engineering a model to reliably handle a 1 million token context window without hallucinations, just totally degrading the output in a matter of months is a staggering feat of engineering. Practically speaking, for you and me, this means the model can now reason across weeks of your project history altogether. You don't have to keep reminding it of the rules you established on day one. It just knows.
But you're probably thinking, how do you run a model this massive without it instantly melting your computer's processors or just grinding to a complete halt? Well, that brings us to the tech under the hood, the Mixture of Experts Architecture, or MOE for short. Think of MOE like a massive team of highly specialized submodels. So the full GLM 5.2 system contains a staggering 744 billion parameters. Huge, right? But if it used all of those for every single question you asked, the compute costs would be absolutely astronomical. No way it would work. So the system uses this really smart router. When you ask a complex coding question, only the specific coding experts, which is about 40 billion parameters, wake up to solve the problem. Meanwhile, all the creative writing experts and the foreign language experts, they just stay completely asleep. It stays highly efficient by only activating the exact experts needed for your specific prompt.
And to further manage all this power, they've built in another incredibly useful feature: dual reasoning modes. You actually get to choose how the AI thinks. You can toggle on max mode when you need deep reasoning. So this is for when you're doing heavy coding analysis or complex multi-step debugging, and you really want the AI to take its time to think through every single logical step. On the flip side, you can toggle over to high mode for fast speeds on everyday tasks. If you just needed to quickly format an email or summarize a quick meeting transcript, you use high mode so you aren't sitting there waiting 30 seconds for a basic response. You're constantly in control of depth versus speed. And honestly, the absolute best part of this entire update, the API pricing miraculously stayed exactly the same as the previous generation. Seriously, you get all this upgraded reasoning power and 1 million tokens without a single cost penalty.
Moving right along to Part 2, Full Codebase Workflow.
This is where that massive context window stops being just a theoretical number on a spec sheet and becomes the ultimate long-horizon tool for developers. The crucial point here is how this fundamentally changes a programmer's daily workflow. Let's look at a real-world scenario. Imagine you have a highly elusive, super frustrating state management bug that spans across your front-end React user interface all the way down to some obscure back-end database misconfiguration. We've all been there, it's the worst. Step 1. Feed the project. Instead of painfully copying and pasting individual files one by one into a chat window, you literally just upload your entire repository. The front end, the back end, the docs, open bug reports, the whole shebang. Step 2. Ask a connected question. Because it holds the whole project in its working memory, you can ask it to trace that exact bug from a button click on the UI straight down to the database query logic. Step 3. Agent mode. And here's the kicker. You don't just get a written explanation back. You let the AI act. In agent mode, it can independently test the code, write the patch for both the front end and the back end, and then just flag the changes for your review. It acts like a senior teammate navigating the whole ecosystem of your code. It's a real game changer.
Let's pivot to Part 3, Deep Document Workflow. Now, this power isn't just reserved for code. This deep document workflow is specifically designed for researchers, teachers, students, or really anyone tackling incredibly heavy, dense material. The pattern here is pretty similar, but it's tailored perfectly for intense knowledge work. Let's say you're a medical student staring down board exams. Terrifying, right? Well, step 1, upload everything. You don't just upload one chapter of notes. You dump 3 years' worth of gross anatomy textbooks, hundreds of lecture notes, and dozens of complex case studies into the model all at once. Boom. Step 2, give a specific instruction. You tell it to analyze that massive, daunting pile of medical text. Identify the areas where case studies most frequently overlap, and build a customized 30-day study plan targeting your personal weakest spots. Step 3, consistent generation. Because it actually read and retained the entire 3 years of material, not just a compressed, skimmed summary, it provides grounded, highly accurate flashcards and schedules based purely on the exact documents you provided. No making things up, no hallucinations, just deep comprehension.
Okay, time for Part 4, the reality check.
Now, as enthusiastic as I obviously am about this technology, part of learning effectively is looking at the whole picture objectively, right? We need to impartially note a few current limitations of the GLM 5.2 launch, just to keep our expectations properly grounded. First off, Z.ai launched without publishing their own third-party verified benchmark tables. While early independent results from users online look highly competitive, a lot of the claims floating around right now are just extrapolations. They aren't officially confirmed data. Second, there's a staggered access rollout. Right now, it's available through their coding plan first, with the standalone API and MIT-licensed open weights following shortly after. And let's quickly define open weights for a second. It just means developers can actually download the brain of the AI to run it entirely on their own machines. But that brings us to the third point. We lack a detailed technical paper explaining exactly how the training was done. For the open source community, this is kind of like being handed a delicious, fully baked cake, but being completely denied the recipe used to cook it. It's definitely useful, but it's just not fully transparent just yet.
Finally, Part 5, the big picture shift.
Zooming out for a minute, this release highlights something massive happening across the entire AI industry right now. We are witnessing open-weight models closing the gap with closed, proprietary models at breakneck speed. But honestly, what you're looking at right now captures the absolute core thesis of this entire explainer. The very nature of how we interact with AI is fundamentally changing. In the past, AI was a tool for single answers. You write a clever prompt, you get a response, and the transaction is over. You're done. The future, driven by these million-token context windows, is all about sustained, long-horizon work. It's about AI transitioning from a glorified search engine alternative to an active, engaged teammate that works alongside you. It retains the context of your entire complex project from start to finish, and think about what this means. This shifts the value of human labor. Instead of spending your time hunting for single answers or writing repetitive boilerplate code, your role elevates. You become a manager of complex automated workflows, directing an AI that already intimately understands the entirety of your workspace.
So I want to leave you, the focused learner, with this provocative thought. Take a moment and really think about this. Now that AI can effectively hold an entire, massive project in its memory instead of just one single file at a time, what is the first big, complicated, messy project in your life or work that you would actually hand over to this AI? Seriously, think about the impossible workflows that suddenly open up when those annoying memory constraints just simply disappear.
I genuinely want to know how you plan to use this incredible new million-token tool, so please let me know. Like, share, and subscribe, please, and drop a comment in comment box.